Well, hello. Happy Wednesday. It is Wellness Wednesday here at Self Enhancement Inc. Go ahead and give you guys a chance to join in. Wellness Wednesday here at Self Enhancement Inc. I see Jamarte. Hello, y'all. Hello. This should be fun. We are having race conversations today. Super excited about today. Dr. Janice Johnson Dias will be joining me in a little bit. As soon as she comes on, I'll have her come on in. But it is Wellness Wednesday here at Self Enhancement. There she is. Go ahead and request yourself to join in, Dr. Janice Johnson. Request to join in, and I'll pull you in. Today we should have some fun talking about race in America, which we all know right now is a big deal. It's happening. Let's give a second for Jen. There she is. So I just got to breathe for a second because you know how much I love you and I miss you so much.
I love you. Thank you for inviting me to come and hang out with you in this new space. I usually don't do any Instagram lives, but I was like, that's fine.
First time. There it is. First time. I love it. I love that this is your first time. Well, welcome. We're going to give people a few minutes to jump in. Everyone, welcome. This is Self Enhancement's Wellness Wednesday, and we have Dr. Janice Johnson joining us today. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to give you an official, of course, introduction.
Yeah,
the official. I'm loving the
so we match.
Oh, look at see. I know we're getting older. You know, I got to be able to see stuff.
I have worn these since I was 13, so I've been blind.
Well, welcome everyone. We are with Dr. Janice Johnson Dias, and she is a woman first of my heart, who is just a powerful speaker, and she has some powerful thoughts that I want her to share with us. But first, let's talk about all of the work that she's done to get to this point. She has her Ph.D. from Temple University in Philly, in sociology, which many of us are interested in, especially today. She is also a published author. Recently in 2020, she wrote a book called Parent Like It Matters, which is just amazing. And of course, there's so many things that she specializes in, but the one thing that I want to point out is that she likes to, and she works with people on building coalitions, in particular in areas that are sustainability and social change. So I thought it was important that we had someone with this caliber here this week in the world that we're living in right now. But before we get into anything else, the first question I always ask is, how are you doing in this time?
You know, I'm doing really all right. I actually felt really guilty saying that a couple of weeks ago. And I think for the reason you just said as the last thing, is like my life is built on sustainability. Mm-hmm. And this moment is challenging, but I have worked so hard to sustain my health and well-being for moments like these. And I've worked hard in collaboration with others to have strategies handy when a moment like these occur, because I think that this is a when moment like these occur. And so I have been doing pretty good. I have 160 days of at least one intentional mile every day. And I'm starting the year. We're going to try to go from June 1 to June 1. Working on getting my time down, because you're running out there. And I'm trying to respect baking. I don't like to bake generally, but because I feel like it's bossy baking. Like you have to follow it with such precision.
Right.
Right. And so I'm trying to respect baking in all these ways. And I hope to come out of this actually both spiritually stronger. I'm doing a lot of history reading and some different things. So I feel pretty good. My family's healthy. We have a dog, so it's a reflexive moment for me.
Good. That's good to hear.
How are you?
I'm good, but this ain't about me though. This is about you. I'm good though. Now, so let's dive deep here. And this morning you did a great Facebook Live that talked about the specifics around racism and just the times, and really allowing people to reflect on what does all this mean right now? What do you do with it? And I thought it was just profound, and that's why I was like, okay, you got to get on here and talk to the people of Portland about these thoughts. So can you give us like kind of a review of, and we'll also post that here so people can see the full view of it, but kind of dive into those three thoughts you were talking about earlier.
This morning, you know, I went on Facebook, which is usually where I would ever talk to groups, and I talked about three things. I talked about, in this moment, how much we have to push back from things that have to do with singularity, right? That we have to drive ourselves towards plurality. And I was trying to make sure that people understand this difference, because plurality is about embracing the most variation and the most diversity that we can embrace. And this is the pathway to democracy. We want a pluralistic society. We want democratic households. We want a democratic society. And so singularity makes things small, and it suggests that we should be homogeneous in our thoughts, in our ideas, in our feelings, in our actions. And this is how inequity occurs. Inequity occurs when we move away from plurality and really get ourselves stuck in singularity. So right now we have a lot of people who are trying to find out different ways of attacking inequity. And if we are committed to singularity, we'll say stuff like, there's only one way to do that. That's the right way. But if we are interested in democracy and plurality, we will embrace the different ways of engaging this issue. And so for me, one of the big points I wanted us to hear today and understand is always try to maximize diversity, variation of perspective, thoughts, feelings, people, and really move away from anything that would have us be reductionist, will have us be singular, and suggest that there's one right way. The second thing that I talked about this morning was the idea that we need to think about Black Lives Mattering in all different ways all the time, that we need to think about the ubiquity of things. Like, so we have in our society, we're getting all kinds of messages all the time that suggest that Black lives do not matter. And we have it in like simple interpersonal ways, right? It's in the way that we interact with each other. It is in the stories that we tell in our media, in the pictures that we see. And if we want to get to the place where Black Lives Matter is not an affront or doesn't anger people, we have to make sure that we're doing that every day. And the model that helps us do that is the kind of public health model, like this idea that every day I need to take care of my health. Every day something that is engaging, that gets me healthier. Every day I need to demonstrate in the way that I live that Black Lives Matter. And when it's ubiquitous, when it is always and every time, then it's not offensive to people, right? Because, oh, I already know, girl, Black Lives Matter. And it shows up in the way. So a second thing. The third thing is the big thing that I have been trying to push forward, is that we have to become informed. You know, this, and I mean informed, not about this situation. We have to ask, how did we get here? Here. And my argument is that one of the many ways that we got here is through the misinformation about the contributions of African people to the globe. And to the United States. The United States history is really a singularity story, right? It is an incomplete narrative that many of us have continual access to, that demeans, excludes all of the contributions of African people. So it makes sense to me that you wouldn't think Black Lives Matter. It makes sense to me that you would think that, you know, Black and brown folks are not of a lot of value, because you really, if you don't have a framework for recognizing our contributions, then it's going to make sense both as the person of African descent and as everybody else. And so we've got to really try to learn and unlearn what we have been taught. And that effort for adults, that adults have to do this. But as adults are doing it, they have to be engaged in bringing their children along. And their children are the next generation. They're the ones who are going to both imagine a new possibility and enact a new possibility. And so we have to start educating our children in our homes and in institutions that allows them to understand that African people, Black history, African history is American history. It's world history. And when we do that, then they can start to think about the contributions of African people and also help us to get to the place where we see the humanity in Africa. In that sentence, or in that part of the conversation, the thing I kept pushing people to do is to stay and keep focus on structural, institutional issues. Don't get distracted, right? There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of distraction. Don't get distracted by all these other things. Focus on the systems.
Right.
The systems. We have police systems, not the police officer.
Right.
Right? We have educational systems, not the teacher. Right? We have faith-based systems, not the pastor, the priest, the, all the rest of those things. We have systems. And you know how you know it's a system? Because you can replace the actor.
That's right.
And right? And you know your family is a system because people pass on and you still keep the same traditions and rituals and morals. And that's how you know it's a system. So if you want to change things, if you want sustainable change, you got to keep an eye on that system. And you got to ask yourself, what am I doing to affect the system? And one of the ways we can do that is becoming informed and really better understanding what racism is. Racism, prejudice. Prejudice is your ideas, bad ideas based on race. It's not discrimination. It's not the fight, somebody calling you an N-word, a B-word, a F-word. It is a web. It's a system. And it distinguishes. So when we address the system, we can address this interpersonal madness. We can address the internalized madness, but we can't get distracted. We got coming back to this. So that is, I'm always trying to get people like, yeah. What system, though, are we trying to dismantle? Because when we dismantle that system, we're going to get some good stuff going.
We're going to get some good stuff going. So I think those 3 points, just I hope that the listeners can hear that, right? Because I think there's so much in our heads at times of when it's so crazy, you're watching the news, you're hearing all this stuff, you open up your social media, and it's just crazy madness coming at you. So I feel like those 3 points just allow you to take the madness and kind of settle into points that you can start to reflect on, and start to see, well, where do I fit in this? And how does this move me into action? And then what's next in a systematic way. So it's not.
I get so tell you that I get really worried at people who feel like they're powerless. That's like a real concern for me on like multiple levels. This idea that they don't have any agency, that there's nothing that they can do about what is happening now. Yes, they might be able to donate, but like, what can I do? That's often the question. Like people are just like, well, what can I do? And what I try to offer people always is pragmatic, sustainable actions. And I do that because I want people not to get tired. When, I keep seeing this hashtag about like tired and people referencing it, tired people are generally not optimistic.
Right.
Not planful. They're generally not strategic. Right. And so I want us to have the energy to do the work. And the reason why I want to give people pragmatic things is that they feel energized and agentic. They feel like, oh, I did that and that matters. And so things that I want people to know is that their sphere of influence is great. It's really great. They have households, they have friendship groups, they have workplace. They can do stuff there. Start with their passions and use their passions to solve these social frustrations. And they can, but it means to shift themselves to recognize that the big issue didn't just get big, they got big through these incremental ways, right? And things we can undo. Racism is human made, and we can humanly deconstruct it. Sexism made, and we can human made deconstruct it. We can do this. We can do this if we keep our eye on that tackling and destruction of these unequal, unjust, painful, pernicious, and awful systems. And do it.
I mean, well, of course you're preaching, and everyone, I feel it in my heart. Like, that's what's so powerful about you, is that it doesn't matter what medium you're in, you're going to penetrate, and it's so real, right? And it's going to hit you in a way where you're like, okay, I can do this. And that's the point of this. I want people to feel empowered, one, and also not weary, because this stuff can just drudge you through the mud, and you just want to give up, right? Like, forget it. It's just, it is what it is. Let's just forget it.
There's nothing I can do. I'll be the same.
Forget it. So, I mean, you've penetrated a lot of information in different forums and different platforms. You being a professor you're still at John Jay College, correct? Yeah. So there's lots of minds and eyes that watch you and listen and digest what you say often. And now we've got kind of a captive audience that will be able to do that too here. And here in Portland, SEI is this agency where we focus on Black youth and families, servicing over 17,000 in Oregon. I know a lot of people are like, really? Like, y'all are there? Yeah, we're here. So, but in that, there is a lot of despair often when you're of the few and you're in this dominant world of what you call otherness, which I love, where the systems are dominant in their way. So what words of hope or something that you can give us to just be like, you just got to get through it?
So I think, I try to explain to people that there's several things. So otherness is a really awful thing, right? Otherness is constructed by virtue of many things. It can be the number of people. So you're a small population of racial minorities in a larger population of majority culture. And the thing about otherness is that what you don't want is you don't want it to make it inside, right? Because when otherness makes it inside, that's what's really deflating. So you can recognize that you're a small percentage, like the United States only has 13% of Black folk, right? And it can make you feel estranged. So the first thing that I try to get people to do is to make sure that they're doing the work that they don't other themselves. That you have to recognize that you are of value, your humanity is important, and that you do the work for your humanity. And that means that if you're already an adult, that work is not so difficult, because you can do that work with a therapist, you can do that work with coaches, you can do that work through reading. But you also always have to keep an eye on, because you're interested in sustainability, you have to keep an eye on making sure that you're helping your young person do this work too. And so even if you're in a shelter, if you're in a foster care system, even if you're in bio households or adopted households, adults have got to take seriously that their big investment for ending inequity is the investment they make in their young people. And so they cannot other themselves, because then they're going to be ill-equipped to be able to help young people not feel othered. So I always tell adults that if you want something to change, you've got to start. You've got to be the change you actually want to see. And being that change means each day, do something that increases your joy. Do something that makes you feel important to you, because you need, again, the energy to be able to deal with young people and the energy to fight the good fight. For me, it's walking, it's talking with my friends, it's watching Kung Fu movies. It's, it is those things, right? But it can be something else for other people. I encourage people, one of the things that I think is, like, when you have literacy, name things. You can name the way you're being treated. It makes you have an identifier. So it's like those of us, like when we get sick sometimes, right? And we don't quite know what it is up. How great we feel go to the doctor and the doctor says, you know what, you have bronchitis. You're like, well, thank you. Because I knew it was something. I knew it was something. But when they give you a name to that something, you know a couple of things. You're like, thank God it ain't in my head. Right? Right? Because I knew I wasn't feeling all right. Right? So when you can name that that's racism operating, that's sexism and homophobia operating, you're like, I knew it wasn't me. I knew it. Right? So you need to have literacy to be able to name what's happening, because once they identify what is happening, then you have therapies, you have responses. So if it's racism, then you know that you have to respond to it differently, right? And you know you got to respond to it. So you need to increase your literacy, and that's getting informed so that you can then respond to that. So those are the kind of like rudimentary things that don't require no heavy lifting. They don't require no heavy lifting because, again, occupational issues, job market issues, pandemic issues, like there are a lot. So people got to be asking themselves like, okay, since I'm in the house though, what can I do today?
That's right.
You can download the People's History of the United States. Today, you can go to the History Channel and watch the Grant series to find out about the Civil War. Today, you can reach out to a friend and say, what's the one book I need to read? I would suggest The Warmth of Other Suns by Elizabeth Wilkerson. Today, you can take one small step. Today, if you're in charge of a young person, you can say, tell me what you understand about Black folk in the US. Tell me what you know. Tell me how you feel being a person of color in the US. And then you can get the sense of whether or not they're feeling othered. And then help them recognize that they are valuable. They are important, right? They matter. Not just in some kind of emotional way. They matter for changing things, right? So that's what I would suggest as a first step.
Well, that is an incredible first step. And what I love most about all of your steps is that they're actionable. They're doable. They're not something, because a lot of times in these discussions, you walk away and you're like, that was all great, but now
what am I going to do?
I just feel, I don't know, it's just too much. So those are all actionable things. And I think the list you just gave of books, we will definitely post on our site so folks can get that access. And I love the what is his name? Not Quinn. What's his last name? Zen.
Howard Zen.
Yeah, because there is a youth version of it, and I think some of these books are so deep. As an adult, you don't know how to translate that to children, right?
No, and it's so hard for young people. We need to be learning with them, learning from them, and learning with them. This is an exercise.
Yes, it is. Well, I love you. And folks out there that don't know, I mean, some of y'all know me from SEI, and some of y'all on here because y'all know Janice. Well, Janice,
I know her from college.
That's right. And she is always been actionable. And I have to share the story before we go, because it has changed the way that I deal with Black people. I walked on to this Jewish college where we were definitely, it was an attempt to other us. I walked into the lunchroom very scared because no one looked like me, until I heard from the corner, hey, you. And it's pointing at me. And she's like, come here. And I look, and there's some other people of color there. And I go sit. She's like, you'll be fine. Just sit down. I'm like, okay. And it's such a example of who you are and who you've always been. And so the work that you now get to publish and share and teach people with is powerful stuff. I will always be your cheerleader, biggest cheerleader and champion. You're a beautiful queen. We are so blessed to have you on this earth at this time. Thank you for the words. Thank you for your
My pleasure. I mean, the thing that I think, I said this a couple of weeks ago, is that we can always make community. We should always be looking to make community. There is no solution that we're going to get that we're going to be able to do by ourselves. So, you get a 6'5" beautiful girl from New York City to come to this corner of nowhere in Waltham, Massachusetts. And, she can feel othered for all the things she is. But we can community, strange bedfellows. We have got to find ways to connect with each other. And that didn't take a lot of effort. We all eat.
That's
right?
We do. We all do. And we can do it with ease, and we can do it with love, and we can do it without any other feelings getting in the way, because we can find a space. And I think you really do a great job of not just giving space, but opening space for others. And for that, I mean, I'm just so grateful for who you are. And I can't wait to see next for you and the family. Much love to you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I am so grateful. You forced me to like clean up my face.
So I got sweat. So I, you know, it's only up to a certain point.
I love you so much. I am so happy to support you. I'm happy to share always with you. You do make me better. Every day I listen to Elevated You, right? And I just think, you know, like you inspire me. And I look for people who I see that there's a great abundance within, because we need this abundance. We've got to cultivate that abundance so that we are not tired. So you give me that regularly. So I just want to
each other. So that's a good thing. I love you. We'll be in touch, of course.
Have a great.
You too. Bye.